welcome back to another video on doing stuff and filming it. In today's episode, the bike's got problems again. Now, the bike has been laid up for a week for, well, two reasons really. The main one being that I've just been working all week. The other one being though, I went to a party. Needless to say, I was obviously riding back at the same night, so I wasn't drinking. A lot of people stayed in tents though, and there was quite a lot of alcohol consumed. Yeah, it was a fun night. But what happened with the bike? Firstly, the frigging headlight bulb blew again whilst I was riding home. So I couldn't see. I had to finish the ride with full beam on, which is always good for other drivers. They like to then put their full beam on at me, which it's not so bad when you're in a car when it happens to you, right? But if you're driving your car and you see a biker coming the other way and he's got full beam on, don't put your own full beam on, because it's fucking dangerous for them. They can't fucking see. Flash if you really must, but if people just put their full beam on and leave it on, that biker is blind and you could kill him, so don't be a cunt. But, yeah, the headlight bulb blew while I'm riding home at nearly fucking midnight. Fortunately this time I was barely a mile from the house, so we're going to look into LED bulbs for it because I can't just keep replacing bulbs. I have got a spare to get me back on the road, but I think LED is going to be the way forward. The other thing that happened, as you can tell by the title of the video, is the bike overheated. Got the little overheat warning light coming on. I'll show you what that is. Obviously it's not on now because the bike isn't on. So this one here, that's full beam. That little red light there, which I've only ever seen once before when I did the previous coolant repair on it. But yeah, that came on and stayed on. It came on within 5 miles of riding the bike. Now it was over 30 degrees at the time. It's not much cooler now. It's still about 30 degrees. And it's a 125. You ride them hard. You ride them basically flat out where I live because it's all country roads. So my initial thought was, alright, I'm pushing this bike pretty hard. It's the hottest day of the fucking year. It's probably just a bit too much for the cooling system to keep up. It is a cheap bike after all. So I stopped for a few minutes because I needed to use a cash machine and the light had gone out by the time I set off. Okay, I'll go steady. Carrying on, it keeps coming on. I stopped for 5 minutes, let it cool a little, go a bit further, go a bit further. It seemed to be only when I was trying to do sort of 60, 70 mile an hour on it. If I just rode the bike nice and steady, or say I stopped at traffic lights, the light would go out. So that further affirmed that the bike isn't actually overheating, it's just it's struggling to keep up with the amount of heat being generated in this hot temperature and me riding it flat out. I do also have quite high octane fuel in it at the moment because I bought some octane booster and may have put a little bit too much in. So I figured that's probably not helping either. However, when it came time to ride home at night, it was much cooler, but the light was on again. And initially it came on again whilst I was going flat out 60, 70 mile an hour. But then I was riding with two other bikers and we stopped for a moment, the light seemed to go out, and then we had another section where I did about 10 miles flat out, light didn't come on, not at all. In fact, it stayed off all the way home, no matter how fast and hard I rode the bike, until I was about a mile from home, and it seemed to be coming on then. But it was on and off the whole way home. It couldn't decide whether or not it wanted to be on or not. Yeah, I didn't really know what to make of it. In the end, she made it home. The bike didn't perform any different or sound any different. I figured I'll look at this later. Either it is getting too hot or there's a problem with the coolant temperature sensor, because by the time I got home, the light coming on wasn't making any sense anymore. It wasn't coming on when I was riding the bike flat out like it was earlier. It seemed to be coming on whenever it bloody well felt like it. I did have a little bit of a tinker with it, and yeah, it's lost nearly all of its coolant, which might explain the light not being able to decide whether it wanted to be on or not. It needs coolant flowing past the sensor to know if it's too hot and put the light on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to investigate where all that coolant's gone and fix it. Let's get on with it. Alright, so first things first, let's crack this off. It's already cool, like I said earlier, the bike hasn't moved in about a week, so... Oh. I didn't undo that, that's interesting. I could have sworn that was on earlier. There's coolant in there. It appears that thread has just let go. It won't tighten down, I can just pull it straight off. Yeah. Well, we may have found the culprit already then. That's just typical. Let's remove this little plastic cover, see what's behind here. So the question is, what does this even do? It appears to just have coolant in it. Also has this little bit of pipe in it. Tell you what, let's take the other one off. See what condition this cap is in. So that's meant to be on there. These are just plastic caps, they're not pressurised in any way. And the real pressure is held by the radiator. What I'll do, I'll take them off. Oh. So it looks like they are overflows then, because that has just immediately dumped that little bit of coolant that was in the top of the radiator. This bike's fucking weird. Right, you know what, I'm going to start the bike up and see if coolant comes out of these little hoses. There's still coolant in there, and it is flowing because I can feel heat in this pipe. But the system obviously won't pressurise with this stuff off. I wonder. Right, let's let it idle for a while and see what it does. See, I was all ready to say it was the two old coolant hoses that I didn't change when this one blew. And then this frigging cap came straight off in my hand. And then the other one wasn't exactly airtight either. Maybe it was that all along. I'm not sure what to make of this. It should be easily up to full temperature by now. This pipe is red hot. It's been running fucking long enough. We're still not getting anything out of these pipes. You thought it'd be all bubbling and everything by now, especially when I rev it, but apparently not. Right, let it go away and have a think about this. Right, welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks in the real world and a couple of things have happened. So I had a bit of a think about it because I didn't really know what was going on. Obviously I'd lost the coolant, but I couldn't tell where from. I had these two bottles which appeared to be broken and worn out, but I couldn't really figure out what they did, and some research was needed. It turns out the coolant bottles, I thought they were a bit weird. This is actually a fairly common thing. They are expansion bottles, and they are designed to collect coolant, but they do work a little differently. They are only designed to have one pipe on them as well. The way it works is, I was thinking, it's my experience, my mechanical experience is with cars. I was thinking that motorbike cooling systems would work the same way, as in they have an expansion bottle, but the system is completely sealed. You know, you shouldn't ever lose coolant out of it. You know, you have the expansion bottle for, you know, changes in pressure, but it should never let anything out, ever. And that's why you have, you know, one pipe going in, one pipe coming out, or more modern systems, you have pipes going frigging everywhere. That's just how it is. These are a bit different. They only have one pipe going into them, because the way it works is the system is sealed, just like as it should be, until it reaches a certain temperature, and the pressure starts to build, because as you heat water up, it starts to expand, and it starts to, you know, it creates pressure. That's where this little spring here on the expansion cap comes in. So what it does is, as the pressure builds up, it presses against this until eventually it moves up. Now, rather than just venting that to the atmosphere, which is not really very good when that's right between your legs, what it does is it lets them out, and then there's little holes in the top of the radiator, you know, the well where this sits, which are those two pipes that we could see. And it lets them out, and it just blasts out the coolant into these bottles. And then as the pressure's relieved, because it's let a bit out, it comes back down, seals it up again. The problem though with that is if you're just letting it out, eventually you're going to run out. Or when it cools down, you're not going to have enough coolant in there. That's where these little pipes come in. So what you're doing there is, it works the other way. So as it cools down, obviously you've got all this water that's contracting in a sealed system, creates a vacuum. It's then able to pull that back out of them. It sucks them out. That pipe, which I have just dropped, acts quite literally as a drinking straw for your coolant system. It sits in there, it goes all the way to the bottom of the bottle, and it allows it to suck the coolant back in that it's previously expelled when it was too hot. The reason I'm replacing these is, as you saw earlier in the video, the caps on the old ones, I could just pull them off. These, however, do screw down nice and tight. They're not coming off, which is good. They also have holes in the top of them. Because you're blowing water off, some of it may or may not be steam, you're going to create pressure in these. And because you've only got one pipe that's both in and out, the pressure will build up in these, which you don't want. So it lets it out through that little hole. These are designed to be open, they're not pressurised. Now, the old ones do have that, but it's an absolute pinhole in the lid. It took me a while to find both of them. So I think what's been happening is the bike gets hot, blows it off, but there's a design flaw in those old bottles in that they can't relieve the pressure fast enough and the caps got worn out. And we saw on one of them, the pipe was broken off, so it then couldn't suck the coolant back in. So every time it blew some coolant off, it was never getting it back, so I was always going to lose coolant just riding along. And also the system then just wasn't functioning properly. So we've got two new bottles. For one, they're nice new parts and they look great. They're not genuine ones, they're just generic bottles. It turns out this design of coolant bottle on motorbikes is quite common, especially on dirt bikes. And just for safe measure, I've gone with a new radiator cap. Doesn't seem to be very much wrong with the current one, but if it's been subjected to an overheat, I don't know how old it is. We've got new rubber seals on this one and a fresh spring. It's just good practice. It wasn't expensive, and I'll probably keep the other one as a spare just in case anyway. So we'll put these on and retest it and see how we go. Right, so let's get the bottles on first. Just offer them up, make sure they do actually fit, and I'm not going to embarrass myself. Get that out of the way. Yeah, that looks okay. The supplied bolts are a bit too big. We may have to get some smaller ones. Let's just put them in place first. Yeah, I'm doing this because I can't actually find anything else wrong with the cooling system on this bike. If you've seen previous episodes, I replaced two of these coolant pipes, and I did think, well, maybe one of the others has gone, but there's no sign of coolant leak around them. The only thing I could find faulty was these two bottles. I suspect it's maybe been a combination of the faulty bottles and the fact that I was riding in like 35-degree heat. And the thing with the 125 is you ride it flat out all the time. Maybe it was just a bit too much for it, and that's why I was getting the overheat light on. Yeah, it's not surprising what happened to it. Right, let's hook this bloody thing on. I know you're meant to have a little bit of coolant in these. I'll do that in a minute. At the moment, the radiator is rammed full, so once it warms up, it's inevitably going to fill them up on its own anyway. But I will put a little bit of coolant in them in a minute. That blue pipe is maybe a little bit long for this purpose. I wonder if I should trim that down. I think if it was, say, that long, it wouldn't be too bad. Yeah, let's just trim a bit off. Go, that's alright. Put the bolt back in. The other thing I'm going to do as well, I want to try and take the coolant fan off the radiator fan. I want to know why it wasn't kicking in. The bike says it's overheating and yet the fan isn't on. Why is that? There we go. Right, quickly do the other side. I was mighty happy when I found these generic coolant bottles that fit this bike, because the genuine ones aren't available anymore. Not sure what I would have done if I couldn't find new ones. Right, coolant cap now. Take that off of there. There we go, lovely. Right, let's start her up and let her run, see what happens. If she does alright here, we'll take that cooling fan off and have a look at that before we do a test ride. And if all that checks out, or if I'm able to fix that, I've got one more thing I want to do in this video. I've bought another thing off eBay. Now, I can't remember if I showed you this in the last video, but I was just debating to myself whether or not to put these chrome covers back over the coolant bottles. If I'm honest, I don't like chrome, I never have, and it doesn't look too bad really with the bottles exposed, so I'm probably not going to bother. But what I wanted to show you was, see the pink marks inside? The coolant marks. Now this is, I can't remember which side this is. The left side, I think. Yeah, the other one's got some on as well, but not as much. But just further lends weight to my theory that it was the bottles that were allowing the coolant to escape, because evidently a lot of it has. So yeah, mighty glad I've got some new bottles for this then. Oh wait, hang on, that's not the left side. Look, it's got an R on it right there. That's right. Stu, you fucking blind idiot. But anyway, I think it's safe to say the bottles needed replacing, and I don't really need these chrome covers. Unless I can find a way to paint them black. I'll keep them. We might do that in another video. Right, cooling fan. This is it here. I hope you can see that alright. It's quite hard to get the camera on its tripod into it. But yeah, this is the case in. The blade is in there. And I noticed a while ago, and I didn't do anything about it, the actual fan blades are touching the radiator, which doesn't seem quite right. And I noticed that if I get hold of it, I can pull it back. That whole assembly is loose. So I'm going to undo these bolts. I get the feeling it's all going to spring apart on me, which could be fun. But either way, I need to look at why it's not working. Hopefully I can just tighten up a screw and it goes back together. I suspect I'm going to end up needing a new one. Alright, let's get it apart. Now, the manual no doubt says I should take the radiator off to do this. I don't fancy doing that. That seems like a lot of work. So I'm just going to undo these bolts that hold the fan on and see if we can just take it out instead. Oh, first time. 8mm. Other side. Come on, out you come. Come on, out you come now. Right. Oh, you come. Fuck's sake. There we go. Okay, let's go and examine this on the bench, shall we? I'll be honest, it's become immediately evident before I even set the bench up that we're not going to be able to fix this. It looks like it has been rotating against the radiator. There's marks on the radiator, and also you can see on the edges of these blades. This is a metal blade as well. You can see on the edges and on the centre here, it has been rotating against the radiator at some point. That just comes away, and yeah, it was never going to work because this wire goes nowhere, and that's the motor in there, which we can pop off. So that sits in there. It's quite strongly magnetic and makes it spin, but unfortunately that is supposed to sit on there, and the little lugs that hold it on have just come apart. So all that's happened is the whole lot then just dropped forward. It probably worked for a while. I mean, we know it did because it's managed to rub the paint off, but then eventually the soldering joints have given up and it's just died completely. That may also have contributed to my overheating problem. I still think the main cause was those coolant bottles not working properly, but when I was stationary or at low speed it couldn't draw air through the radiator. It was probably commanding the fan on, but of course it's knackered. And the lugs, which would normally attach to this part, sitting there, they're just broken, gone. There's no saving this. Which is a shame, because I really wanted to have a go at some fine soldering, and I was hoping that once I took this off there would just be a nut or a bolt here that I could tighten to press the whole thing back down, but no, that is shagged. Gonna need to find a new one, and I don't think that's going to be easy. Fortunately, there doesn't appear to be any damage to the actual radiator. We can see where the fan has been rotating on it, bent some of the fins, but the actual veins where the coolant flows are all intact. There's no sign of any leaks. They may be a bit polished like this one here, but yeah, the radiator looks to have survived its encounter with a spinning blade of death. So, a bit of luck at last. We just need a new fan for it, not a new radiator. Right, well, found a coolant fan, ordered it, should be here in a couple of days. Again, not a genuine one, can't find them. Gonna have to be a generic one. Never mind, it seems to be the way this is going. Tell you what, we'll do my latest online purchase in the meantime. Look at that. This is genuine Lifan. I managed to get one. There aren't many of these left, it seems. Hardly anywhere has them. That goes there like that for the proper cruiser style. Now, I was hesitant to get one of these when I first got the bike because I didn't want any more wind resistance slowing me down than I already had. But since I did that sprocket change, the bike goes like stink, and I think it should be able to handle this. Also, I realised it can't really be much more wind resistance than having my fat ass just a few inches back sat on it. So yeah, let's get it on and give myself a bit more of a comfortable ride. I do have this big bag of bolts and bits and no instructions, so it could be a bit of an exploration getting this on, but I've got time waiting for this fan. Let's get it done. Well, that is clear as mud. Really wish this had come with instructions. I'm gonna have to be honest with myself. I could probably figure this out if I had the time. The problem I've got is it's currently 7:20 on Sunday evening. I'm due in Birmingham, which is a 2.5 hour drive away, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I still need to get all my work gear together. I need to pack. I'm there for 3 days. I am off Thursday, Friday, but then I'm due to go on a ride out, which I have organised, so I have to go on the Saturday morning. And it could well take me all of that time just to figure out what all this stuff does. And then I've still got to fit the coolant fan and test on the cooling system. So, I think I'm going to do the manly thing and email the guy and get some instructions out of him. Or at the very least a picture of what this is supposed to look like. That will be helpful as well. More delays, but to save myself from even bigger delays. Alright, never mind. I've been online and I found a product very similar to this one on Chinese motorcycle parts online, along with some pretty detailed pictures of how to fit it. Which means two things really. One, a good thing, I may actually stand a chance of getting this fitted tonight, but also two, this may or may not be a genuine Lifan part, because the one that was on Chinese motorcycle parts looked pretty much identical to this, and even said it fits my bike along with a load of others. But, you know, whatever, that's life. So, yeah, we'll start off. These rods attach at these 4 holes, and then it looks like the top ones get bolted on where the rear view mirrors attach. I was about to say wing mirrors, but that's not really accurate on a bike. And then the bottom ones use these clamps to put it just around the lower part of the handlebars. So we shall start. I'll get the pictures back out. Right, let's head outside before we lose the light, see if we can get it on the bike. So, the pictures show that the mounting point is here, just where the rear view mirror joins with the handlebars. We put the little bracket under there, which, if I offer this up, yeah, would appear to be accurate actually. If the bottom ones go to the handlebars there, yeah, that's probably going to work. Alright, let's give that a try. So right, I think I'm going to have to call that it for tonight. It's starting to get dark. It's 9:30 and I still haven't packed, and I need to be off by 6 o'clock in the morning, no later. Well, more like 5:30. That's going to have to stay like that for a while until I figure this out. I think it's too high. I think it's meant to sit lower, but it's getting it to reach and fit. Yeah, screw it. I'll have to come back in a few days. I am back. It has been 3-4 days at the time of filming. I've been away on a training course for work. With a bit of luck, the last training course, because I'm now fully accredited, qualified, ready to be inflicted on the general public. So yeah, I've managed to get the screen on. I didn't film it because I was doing it sort of the day I came back from my training course. I was pretty tired and I wasn't 100% sure it was going to work. I did get an email back from the guy I bought this screen from, that I buy a lot of my parts from. The guy did eventually send me a picture of this thing fitted to a Lifan King. It looked like it was taken on an early 2000s camera phone. It was terrible, but I was able to make out where the mounting points go. I'll show you up close. I did end up having to put the mounting brackets here and undoing this bolt, which I didn't want to undo, although I was thinking about this job whilst I was away in the hotel, and it made more sense to put them there, really, the more that I thought about it. And then we've got the other little clamps have gone around the top of the handlebars there. It took me about another hour. Like I said, I didn't film it. It would have been largely unused footage anyway. I'd have just time-lapsed through it. It was just me sort of fiddling and readjusting and reclamping, and yeah. But it's finally on. I'm happy with the overall position. I think it looks pretty darn good. Ideally, I would have liked this gap here to be less, because that's obviously designed to slot down around your headlight. Problem with that though, bit of a design flaw, these clamps here then go directly in front of your indicators. So that's as long as it can go, really, without interfering with them. So yeah, that's just how it's going to go. It is on very firmly as well. See, I can shake the whole bike before the screen starts to give. It's already getting dirty. I'll have to polish it before this ride out. But yeah, I'm happy with that. It does, however, just need one more thing doing to it. There we go. That's better. Nothing like a bit of shameless self-promotion whilst you're out and about. Into the final touches now. So, the new cooling fan has arrived. It is, thankfully, measuring up against the old one, an exact match. It's the exact same size and shape, and I've sort of offered it up to the mounting holes already, and it looks good. Only thing I am going to do before fitting it, because it is an eBay purchase, I'm just going to put some current through to test it. So I've got a bit of wire in here, just going to touch it onto the battery. If it spins, happy days, it's going on. Right, get off you. You're not helping, Archer. Oh. There we go. Good. Right, let's get it bolted on then. I think these are the original bolts. Can't really remember. Never mind. Okay, maybe they're not the original bolts because they don't actually reach all the way through. Ugh.
A few moments later.
Okay, it's more likely to be these, which are longer and which I actually left on the other footrest so that I knew where to find them. Stu, you fucking idiot. There we go, that's straight on. Stu, finger tight, do the other side. Also, I apologise for the lighting. It is extremely sunny and I still haven't had a chance to get my bike workshop built, which is why I'm doing this outside. I mean, I do have somewhere I could go inside with it where the bike is stored, but there isn't really room to move around. Move around, get the camera in, all that sort of thing. Can't be done. Archer, he really is the clumsiest animal. Right, do the other side. Wiring connector. There we go. One thing that's left to do now then, top up the coolant, take her for a run, test run. It is a swelteringly hot day, I'd say about as hot as when I first started having this overheat issue, so it's ideal test conditions. Top it up, get dressed, out we go. Hello there, Stuart doing the edit here. Now, for some reason, which I haven't been able to figure out yet, I don't have the footage when I got back from my ride out to tell you what happened with the bike. I don't really know what's happened to it. It's not corrupted or anything. I just don't have it. I remember recording it and talking about what happened on the ride, but for some reason it's not here. But whatever. That doesn't matter though, because I'm actually doing the editing several months after I did the majority of the filming, so now I can tell you what's happened long term after the repair rather than just a few minutes after. So, on the actual day when I tested it, went for a ride, rode it around for a good distance. I think I was out for about an hour in all different conditions, and it was fine. Yeah, it did blow some coolant off into those bottles, which is what it's supposed to do, and they've sort of reached a level and have stayed there, you know, long term as well, so it obviously blows a little bit in, sucks a little bit back out when it cools down and so forth, but the levels in the two bottles stay roughly the same. I have yet to actually hear the fan cut in at any point. I keep meaning to do a test, just leave the bike idling until it gets hot enough for the fan to cut in. If I'm honest though, idle, I don't know if it can actually overheat, even on really hot days. It just doesn't seem to get that hot anyway. I think for such a small engine, 125cc, it's a relatively large radiator, so even without the fan I think it's able to dissipate its heat, but you know, whatever, I'm not that concerned about it. I know the fan is on there, so I might find a way of making it kick in at some point, but I'm not that fussed, not in much of a rush to do that. So at the time, I was very happy with it. I thought I'd fixed it. More long term, however, I now know a bit more about it, and I think part of the reason I've been getting the overheat light come on has been my fault. So, if you've been watching the series, you'll know that I've changed the front sprocket on it, gone down a tooth. Now, as I explained in that video in great detail, when you go down a tooth on the front sprocket, you naturally change the gearing of the bike, and the way when you do it that way, what you do is you sacrifice, say, top speed for acceleration. Now, it worked a little differently on my bike because of how the gearbox is set up, but I won't go too much into that. You'll have to just go watch the video itself. I'll leave a link in the description. But what it's essentially meant now is I'm spending a lot more time at higher revs. Mainly when I'm cruising, you know, when I'm doing 60 or 70 mile an hour, I'm in 5th gear and it's doing about 9,000 RPM. The red line is at 10,500. I think, although it's not bad enough for me to make any changes to it, because I still think what I've done has improved the bike quite a lot. Riding it in warm weather or hot weather, constantly at high revs, is too much even for a relatively large radiator to keep that engine cool. Now, it's not doing it as much, but on really long trips, you're talking 10 miles, you know, when I'm just cruising almost constantly at maximum revs, the overheat light does still come on. But you slow down, you knock it down from say 60, 70 to like 50, and within half a mile the light goes out again, it catches up. So I think it's just because the revs are so high for so long with what I've done to the bike that it's going to do this no matter what now, and I'm just going to have to learn to live with it and manage it when it happens. It's just one of them things. Now, if it did worry me, the solution would be to put the sprocket back, go back up one size, but I don't want to do that because it's improved the bike in every other way. So I'm not going to change it, just going to manage the overheat light when I need. So there's nothing wrong with just slowing down if you're riding your bike a bit too hard. So yeah, that's a summary of it. The repairs I've done in this video, they have worked. They've worked very well, and they continue to work very well. But I don't think that was 100% of my issue. Well, I know it's not 100% of my issue now because, well, I've had time to test it over a longer period of time, and I know that it's kind of my fault. So we'll call that it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching this video on doing stuff and filming it. Please don't forget to press the big button here in the middle to subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you liked what you just saw, please click the like button below and leave a comment letting me know what you liked about it. And as always, thank you for watching.